Weird enough for a verse that spanned 3 shows with 17 seasons of television, with a lot of characters, there's not really a lot of them that were written. Now don't get me wrong, there are well written characters, but there's not really a lot of them. Now before I get to the list, I must preface this by saying that these 10 are not the only well written characters, there's a couple more, but these are just my top 10. And finally, I'm judging it based on not only how well written you are, but also how long you've been around for. This is so it's fair for characters that last a really long time. And as always, although I try to be as objective as I possibly can, you're very likely not going to have the same list as me. So let me know your rankings in the comments below.
Oh, you're angry, are you? Well, join the party. I've been here 1,000 years. I was building that dagger to protect myself against you, Nick. I'm not the bad guy in this chapter of our family's story. I'm the wronged. I'm the dead but never mourned. And whilst you got everything that you wanted, I got a family who didn't care if I lived or if I died.
Oh, shut up. We've all suffered. We've all been wrong.
Go on, finish it off. Go on, kill me.
I'm not gonna kill you, you idiot. Despite your behavior, you're still my brother.
Just the one you dagger repeatedly.
I've daggered all of you, each for your own good. If you don't agree with my motives, fine. I never claimed to be the bastion of temperance, but stop this drivel about being singled out and unloved. You are a Mikaelson. You're my blood. And I need you. I need you by my side.
I've done a whole video on Hope Mikaelson, and generally speaking, fantastic character. It's a shame that in the Vampire Diaries they didn't really realize that. Cole was simply just a psychotic Mikaelson. In the originals, they actually tried to flesh out his character, which was really well done. I believe the actor change elevated the character way more. Now I'm not saying that the original actor is bad at what he's doing, but I believe that the new actor, the one that played Cole in season 2, did Cole really well. In fact, I think he did Cole better than the original actor. With regards to writing, I think in one season alone he's deeply fleshed out. Over time we found out that the originals are basically as human as you can get. Cole was basically an attention-seeking teenager. And unfortunately an attention-seeking teenager with enhanced strength and speed and a ridiculously bad bloodlust. When he makes all of that together, you get the Cole that we know of. Like, we found out that Cole wasn't just violent just because he was violent. We found out that he's not violent because he's a ripper like a lot of people believe. No, he's violent to seek attention from his siblings. When he gets violent, his siblings hate it and they push away from him. And because they push away from him, he gets even more violent to seek their attention again. And the more violent he gets, the further away his siblings go. And unfortunately with Cole, although he wants the relationship that Klaus, Elijah and Rebekah had, he cannot subject himself to always and forever. He wants freedom. He can never be subservient to anyone. He can never follow any law. He does what he wants to do at any point, at any time. Which again clashes with his siblings. Which brings us back to the attention seeking and violence and stuff. That little situation went all the way until he finally met Davina. Davina was a person that allowed him to understand that being human and acting like a human is a viable option. In fact, is the better option, which kickstarted his growth as a person. However, the reason why I don't have Cole ranked higher, which he could have been, is because his storyline kind of ended in season 2, and because the writers refused to kill off characters permanently, Cole will be ranked here.
Years ago, we were sitting in this exact same room trying to work out a way to take out a different threat to your family. And you made the call to take out Davina. In your mind, the ends justified the means, I get that, but what am I to think now? Elijah's life is just worth more?
Elijah's my brother. All right, and if you think that I never regretted what we did to Davina, then you're wrong.
No, I think that we are wasting our time here trying to loophole ourselves out of the inevitable.
Okay, well, I'm not giving up.
Is it really giving up, though, Freya? Elijah's 1,000 years old. How many lifetimes is going to be enough? How much longer is he going to feed off the blood of innocent people whose lives amount to a fraction of his own?
I get it. Okay, you hate us. But that doesn't mean that Elijah has to die stopping some beast that crawled from the basement of your city.
There's no other choice! We don't have any other option, Freya! You Mikaelsons, you're the oldest family in the whole world. You're the oldest family of all time. You've seen empires rise, you've seen empires fall, you've seen ages begin and end. And yet somehow, despite every single thing you have seen with your own eyes, you fail to see the obvious. You don't get the takeaway. Everything dies, Freya.
I wouldn't say he'll be ranked as high as I would have put him if I'm talking about him as a character overall, and more specifically if I'm talking about the actor in comparison to everyone else. But for primarily character writing, he's extremely consistent. There's not really a really high, and obviously there's not really a low. He's just good throughout from the very moment that he showed up. He had a great character progression. He's been ducking responsibilities of his duty from the moment that we met him, even though every single witch wanted him to be regent. All the witches wanted him to be the leader, but he didn't do that because he was afraid. Not because he doesn't want to get into war with other people, but he was afraid of what magic is capable of. Specifically, really dark magic. Because when you get into a position of power, you have to do everything to keep that power. And as somebody has been practicing the Hollow's dark magic and the Hollow's sacrificial magic, so you understand exactly how bad he can get. So he didn't want to get into the fold, he didn't want to get involved. So he tried to push people to do his duties, like Davina. Even though Davina, 1, isn't experienced, and 2, would very likely go down the path that he himself don't want to go down, which Davina did. Hence why later on, Vincent actually took charge. Even when he wasn't regent anymore, even when he was shunned, even after the ancestors left, Vincent was basically the de facto leader of the witch community in New Orleans. So yeah, in terms of character writing, there's not really much to say that Vincent could be ranked a lot higher. He's just good, like flat out good throughout the entire show.
Hey, I have more control over my vampire self than you ever did. My experience will be different.
It's not gonna be different, Kara. It's gonna be deadly.
You saw what happened to me when I did it.
Yeah, that's my point, Elena. You did it. You couldn't handle the pain when your brother died, so you turned it off. Yeah, Damon died, and you erased all your memories. Stefan moved to Savannah and became an auto mechanic. Wait, do you think that you guys are the only ones who get to escape grief?
You just mentioned 2 of the biggest mistakes that I ever made.
Were they mistakes? Because when you came out the other end, the worst part of the pain was gone. And that's what I need. I just need the pain to be gone.
Just like with Vincent, Caroline is basically flat out good throughout the entire show. The reason why I actually have her ranked above Vincent is because, well, she's been on screen for a lot longer than Vincent has. So her consistency pushes her above him. I can't really put Caroline a lot higher because, like I always say, Caroline is the most non-main character I've ever seen on any show. But she probably is the only main character that wasn't butchered, although they were really close to doing that. Because for some reason I decided to pair her up with Klaus, which nearly ruined her character. Like they made her do things that Caroline would never do. Like sleeping with Klaus and being mad at Tyler for reacting badly. That is insane. That's something that Caroline would never do. Not only would Caroline never sleep with Klaus, but Caroline would never be angry at Tyler for reacting badly to that situation. That's not Caroline. And like I said in a hot takes video, Caroline is the only main character in the Vampire Diaries that grew as a character. Like Caroline at the start was insecure, she tries to force herself to get exactly what she wants, and if she doesn't get what she wants, she somehow throws a tantrum or tries to do anything in order to get what she wants. However, Caroline, after she became a vampire, became the complete opposite. She was no longer insecure, she doesn't particularly throw herself to people, although she does try to speak to them, she doesn't try to emotionally force herself on them, which is something that Caroline did in season 1. That's why Caroline struggled with getting people to fall in love with her in season 1, and then after season 1, she was able to get almost everyone to fall in love with her. So yeah, with regards to Caroline, consistent character growth, nearly derailed, but they didn't go all out with it, which I like, thank God. So that's why Caroline is ranked here.
Damon. Hello, brother.
Now, before I go through why exactly Damon is ranked at number 7, because I assume that somebody in the comments is going to ask me, wait, Damon is at number 7? Before I go through exactly the problems with Damon, I must go through the goods with Damon, as in why Damon is a good character. Why exactly he's ranked here. And unlike with Caroline and Vincent, Damon wasn't consistently good throughout the entire show. He had a really high and some lows. With regards to the highs, Damon had a really really well written character growth throughout the entirety of season 1 all the way to season 4. More specifically at the start of season 4, which was well written. Like us seeing Damon go from being the baddest of the bad to being someone on the side of the good guys was great to watch. People tend to forget that Damon was flat out evil in season 1. Like Damon had abuse, murder, everything under his belt. And because Damon grew as a character, us actually reminiscing on how he was in season 1, it's quite far-fetched to us because of who he became later on in the show. Now don't get me wrong, Damon wasn't a good person for the entire show, of course not. Damon wasn't a good person for like 2 to 3 seasons straight, ever. But us seeing Damon toe the fine line of being good or being evil and not understanding exactly which side he needs to be in, because in his mind, the side that he's in is not only dependent on self-serving factors, but also for the greater good of his family, friends, and allies. However, with regards to why he's ranked this low, and that is because Damon is incredibly inconsistent after season 4. Like I just said, Damon walked a fine line of being either good or evil and was struggling to actually decide which side he needs to be on for the first 4 seasons. The problem is, it didn't stop at the first 4 seasons, it continued throughout the entire show, which became really repetitive and really damaged the character. And the main reason why I believe this happened is because the show isn't supposed to last that long. Because he did, Damon paid the price for it. And that's why I have Damon ranked here.
I'm not okay. I'm furious. And I can do something about it. I'm regent of all 9 covens. I will turn every single witch against that family until they're broken.
Fair enough. All I ask is that the war wait one day, just one day.
What are you doing here?
You're right. You're learning what I've known for over 200 years, that if you're not a Mikaelson, you're cannon fodder. But right now, their problem is my problem. I need you to find Dahlia.
You want me to help them?
Dahlia wants to kill them all, right? If Klaus dies, I die. Josh dies. Everyone I've turned dies. Help me right now, and we all live to fight another day.
I know what you're thinking. Why exactly did I put Davina at number 6, above Damon? Obviously, without much explanation, that would sound insane, but I believe that Davina is probably the most underrated character in the entirety of the Vampire Diaries universe. Davina is a really good character, not only because she tends to be essential to a lot of plot lines, but because her storyline is actually well written. In fact, I said when I was ranking the villains in the originals, I said that Davina is exactly how I wanted Elena to turn out. If Elena was written like Davina, then Elena would have been a fantastic character. I wouldn't really have much bad to say about Elena. This is all because of one word, and this is something that the Vampire Diaries lacked but the originals had in abundance, and that word is consequences. In the originals, there's always a cause and effect, as in when something happens, it has to affect something for the show to actually move on. Everything that the characters do or say affects not only the show in general, but also the character and also their relationships to other people. That is why characters like Davina is that well written. A lot of people say, well, Davina is kind of annoying. Sure, but that's mainly because we're looking at it from the Mikaelson's point of view and not from Davina or Vincent's point of view. Davina had valid reasons to go after the Mikaelsons. For example, in season 3, when she started going after the Mikaelsons again, she did that because they tricked her in making her resurrect Esther, leaving Cole trapped in an ancestral well, and she has no way and no power to actually do something about it. That's why she hated the Mikaelsons in season 3, and she wanted them destroyed. But the lengths that she went to do that, it caused her to emulate the people that she hates, the Mikaelsons. It got to the point in which she thought that she was emulating Marcel, and Marcel had to remind her that the actions that she's committing that is emulating him, he learned that from Klaus. And all of it led back to something that happened to her later on. She made a mistake in having Haley as a hitman because Haley is nuts, and it ended up with 11 or 12 witches dead, and this consequently led to her being excommunicated, which led to a very violent ending. And also her storyline of Cole was really well done.
I loved being a bartender. Endless parade of faces each night. Someone new would come in with a good story. One guy's shy, the other won't shut up. Cheers. I used to think if you just give someone a little booze, they'll tell you anything. And then I realized it wasn't the alcohol. People just want someone to listen.
Yes, well, you're quite adept at listening. In fact, I would go so far as to call you a connoisseur of stories.
I don't think Cammy as a standalone character is a particularly fantastic character or really well written character, mainly because she barely exists as a standalone character. her entire existence is tied to Klaus, meaning all of her writing is Klaus related. Her entire being and her entire character is just her relationship with Klaus. Although I don't particularly like that about characters, but when it's done really well, I love to see on screen. And in this case, Cammy and Klaus were written really well. Although I did say they didn't have good romantic chemistry, but in terms of writing, they are easily the best written relationship in the entire show. Romantic, of course. In fact, the best written relationship in the entire verse. I mean, from the introduction, you can just tell that it is going to be a really well written story, because Cammy was able to break down Klaus's mental psyche by accident just by describing what the painting means. And that's just from watching somebody paint, and she has never met Klaus. Obviously, over time now, she actually does get to know Klaus, and she understood that, hey, although this guy is evil, I believe that he can be saved, and I believe he's trying to be saved. The problem is he believes that he's beyond saving, and he needs to be beyond saving in order to save his family's life and also to save his life. But Cammy is the first person to extend that olive branch to actually make him understand that and still be a better person. The tough outer shell that Klaus puts on doesn't fool Cammy, because Cammy can still see him as a scared little boy that is still being hunted by Michael. An aspect of his psyche that he refused to let go. He assumed that that is him and that is always going to be him. And Cammy helped guide him to let go of that part of him. And once Klaus understood all of that, and he started letting go of the mental damage that Michael has caused him, he started changing for the better, trying to help his family instead of trying to destroy them. And being a lot more forgiving and tolerant for things that he would have killed people for a lot less. But unfortunately, Cammy didn't live long enough to see that change be fulfilled. But still, like I said, in terms of that storyline, it was fantastically written.
Klaus Mikaelson, sire to 1,000 years worth of angry faces. How does it feel to be this hated? Go on. Look at them. I said, look at them! They're all yours, after all.
The top 4 is basically set in stone because they're all that good. I don't see any other characters surpassing them. With Marcel, I've spoken so much about Marcel. Like, a lot of people don't particularly believe that Marcel is that well written, but I've consistently been saying that Marcel is the best written antagonist in the originals and probably the second best written character in the entire show. Although there is another character that did appear in the originals that happened to be above Marcel in this, but I'll get to them later on. But with regards to Marcel, Marcel was just excellently written. Although I do have a bit of a problem with how Marcel started with the whole slave thing. Don't like exactly the connotations of that. Although I get what they were trying to do, having Marcel's life mirror Klaus's life for somewhat different reasons, but basically their fathers viewed them the exact same way. However, after that, I don't really have much complaints about Marcel. The inner struggle of Marcel throughout the show, specifically from season 1 to season 3, was really well done. Because for all intents and purposes, Marcel is Klaus. He's been around Klaus for so long, and Klaus has mentored him for so long that he practically became him. Because Klaus's view on the world is exactly what he embedded in Marcel. How Klaus operates is exactly what he embedded in Marcel. Klaus's read on people is exactly what he embedded in Marcel. However, after Klaus left Marcel's life and Marcel operates as a sole being in his own right, away from Klaus for about a century, Marcel became a somewhat different person. Although he's still exactly like Klaus, he does grow something that Klaus really lacked up until season 3, and that is emotional intelligence. That is the massive mental conflict with Marcel. He wants power, he wants control, he doesn't want to ever be seen as weak again like he was when he was still a child. And the way that he tries to obtain power, he does it in the way that Klaus taught him. He's also a kind person to people that deserve kindness and also sometimes people that don't. If you notice, when Marcel had power, Marcel behaves like Klaus. However, when he doesn't, he is very different to Klaus. But ultimately, even though he's very different from Klaus, he resets back to the same Klaus setting because to protect the people that he cares about, he has to behave like Klaus. That's why the end of season 3 was so well written, because both sides can win the arguments if they use the right arguments. Because Klaus would have asked Marcel that if he was in for a situation and he finds out that Davina was going to die and he has to sacrifice Klaus to save her life, Marcel would have done the exact same thing Freya did. In fact, that's technically what he did, because Freya only did that to save her family. Marcel was pissed off at it because Davina died because of it.
I first met Isabel when I was a teenager. I fell in love with her instantly, although I'm pretty sure she never loved me. She was special. And part of why I hate the vampires so much is because of what she became. How it ruined her. And I never would have sent her to Damon had I known she wanted to turn. It's my fault. I'm telling you this because I hope maybe you'd understand.
Thank you.
Can I help?
Sure.
Catherine.
Hello, John. Goodbye, John.
The introduction of Katherine was so expertly done that they had to do it twice. I'm of course referring to Klaus, like it was that good. Everything that we know about Katherine, like in terms of the build-up, was that good. Because before we even met her, we got Stefan, who views her as a narcissistic, manipulative psychopath. And then you have Damon, who views her as this lost girl that's put in a situation in which she has no choice but to be who she was. But deep down, she's just as caring as any normal person. And then obviously when she was introduced, we first got Stefan's point of view of her, in which she seemed like a manipulative, narcissistic psychopath. However, over time and after we started to learn more about her life and why she became what she became, we started to view her more from Damon's perspective, because Katherine was part of an abuse cycle that started with Michael. Michael obviously physically and mentally abused Klaus, and Katherine got the same treatment from Klaus. That is why Katherine is the way that she is, and it's become so normalized that Katherine doesn't really feel remorse with regards to anything that she does, even if it is psychotic. But deep down, Katherine does care about some people, but the one person that she cares about the most is herself, because she has never had anyone looking out for her whilst a psychotic madman who is incredibly intelligent and incredibly powerful is chasing after her. She had no family, no friends, and basically nobody to help her for centuries. And she can't stay in the same place for too long because it runs the risk of alerting Klaus to her presence. The slow uncovering of Katherine's tough, violent, psychotic nature and actually start showing just how human she is over time throughout season 2 was really well done. Obviously that was done to build up who Klaus was, but it also helped Katherine's character. So if I have all these good things to say about Katherine, why exactly is Katherine ranked at number 3 and not number 1 or number 2? Well, this is because she kind of overstayed her welcome. Now, don't get me wrong, the end of season 2 wasn't the last time that Katherine was well written. The storyline of Nadia in season 5 was really well written. I've consistently said this in about every single video I mentioned Katherine in. But again, like I said, she overstayed her welcome. I think the Nadia storyline should have been pushed to season 3 and Katherine should have died in season 3. Katherine didn't really have much of a character writing in season 3 or season 4. She kind of just exists as a plot device or something that is a part of the plot. So they kind of waste their character. And then once she returned in season 8, although the series finale was really action-packed, that whole storyline makes no sense, especially from Katherine's point of view. All of her motivations were just stupid. So that's the reason why I actually don't have Katherine ranked as high as others who probably have her ranked.
That is Cammy's. She has been staying here the past few nights. Actually, Jackson and I have our own place now. Although we still can't manage to stay out of Mikaelson drama.
You don't seem to mind the family drama when you need something from us. Like a decent dress or a babysitter.
Excuse me?
But when you're looking for someone to blame for your unhappiness, we seem to be the enemy.
Rebekah, you're wrong. This isn't you.
I am wrong. I believed we were friends. Nearly sisters. But the last time we spoke, you were planning on taking Hope away from this family forever. So where do you stand, Haley? Are you a friend? Are you family? Or perhaps...
You've been a foe all along.
Pretty much the moment I said that Katherine is number 3, if you watch my videos long enough, you will know that Rebekah is very likely going to be number 2. Mainly because Rebekah is a perfect description of all the flaws of the main supernatural species in the Vampire Diaries universe, that obviously being vampires. Like a lot of people say, what is the glory of being mortal and being a human? Well, that is because Rebekah has lived for too long and really hasn't lived. And even if she has, you will not want to live for 1,000 years. Especially not as an immortal in the Vampire Diaries universe. Because everything that you would want, especially as a teenager, you cannot have ever. especially as a teenage girl that lived in the medieval period. Their entire ambitions and aims and hope in life are all family oriented. They want to feel loved, they want to come home to their husbands, they want to have children, they want to grow old with their husband and their children, and they want to eventually die. That is almost impossible as a vampire, especially somebody that is Rebekah, especially on original that is a front of nature that people don't want to be alive. A lot of them want them dead. To be honest, they didn't do anything to the Brotherhood of the Five, but they still tried to kill them. That is the life that she lived. If she tried to live the life that she wants, it is almost always used against her. Somebody tries to use her to get more power, things that she can't see but her brother Klaus can. She obviously understands why Klaus is doing it, but she believes that it doesn't matter because at that point, she wants her happiness no matter what, even if it leads to her demise. But Klaus takes upon himself to make sure that doesn't happen. That was Rebekah's life for 1,000 years. It's basically a story of an immortal that really wants to be mortal again. Sounds like a simple story, but it is really complex just because of how Rebekah is written, just because of Rebekah's association with Klaus, just because of Rebekah's association with her other siblings, and also association with other characters like Stefan and Damon and Matt and so on.
And as for you lot, yes, I murdered your loved ones. I killed your harlot. I rid the world of your slum, and I freed you from your decrepit mother. So what of it? Each and every one of you stands here today because I willed it to be so. This mockery of a trial is allowed only because of me. And your very immortality is a gift from me. A debt that you can never repay. One that far offsets all of my supposed crimes. I owe you nothing.
I mean, to be honest, was it going to be anyone else? Yes, of course, Klaus is number one. I've talked about it so many times on why essentially Klaus is the best written character in the entire verse, and by far. So there's not really much of a point to do that fully again, because I've done like 6 or so videos on that. But to make a long story short, Klaus from the start all the way to the end was almost perfectly written. Although there's bits and pieces of bad writing here and there, but Klaus was so good that it didn't really matter.